Hey guys, it's Thankful Thursday, and it is me, Rachel, and I am here with Kel this week, and unfortunately I just made a 10-minute video and didn't press record on my webcam. Anyway, so I'm making this again now. This week we're looking at something quite alternative really, and I think that's quite important when it comes to making these eating disorder videos, because I know that for most people with an eating disorder, they very rarely suffer just with an eating disorder, and there are other mental health issues that tend to go with that. But I also think that within the realm of an eating disorder itself, there tends to be a number of difficulties. One of those this week for me, I'm going to group in a kind of anxiety disorder, perhaps body dysmorphic disorder, perhaps some form of self-injury behaviours, and of course obsessive compulsive behaviours, and in particular I'm going to look at compulsive skin picking. I don't know how aware many of you watching are about this, and I think that Kel is going to look at a slightly different angle, because she cannot completely relate to skin picking, but can relate to perhaps other compulsive sort of behaviours. And I kind of been thinking about this, and I was sort of thinking about how, you know, along with these sort of compulsive behaviours, I guess there's stuff like hair pulling, which is I'm not even going to try and pronounce it. And then there's kleptomania, which is compulsive shoplifting. And then I'm thinking sort of compulsive exercise is perhaps within all of that as well. I also am aware that for most people, before the onset of their eating disorder, there could have been up to a 5-year history of some form of anxiety disorder. In hindsight, I do believe that I suffered with a form of childhood depression. I didn't get poorly until I was 18, 19 is when I developed anorexia. I was raped, and that is what sort of triggered that spiral. Before that, when I was perhaps about 14, I did have a number of anxieties, and I wasn't a particularly nervous or anxious child. I was very, very outgoing, and even as a young adult I was that way. But I do have a kind of side to me that's very restless, kind of up and down, ants in my pants, and that tends to be, you know, part of who I am, and kind of how many of my family members are. The question I'm specifically going to look at today is this. I have compulsive skin picking disorder, and I always thought it was a bad habit. But after some research, I found that it could be a form of self-harm and is actually linked to my eating disorder. It's something that I can't help, and I tend to pick up blemishes, scabs and all other skin imperfections. I hate it when my skin's not perfect, and picking at it only makes this worse. In spite of knowing this, I still continue. I might even sometimes like the pain. It's a real compulsion, and sometimes I spend hours with it trying to stop this, but I'm not particularly being successful. And do you have any tips on how to stop this? I do think it's something that is very time consuming, like any form of compulsive behaviour within the kind of OCD spectrum. I guess it's something that we feel we have to do, we don't have a choice about it. It tends to be something that provokes huge amount of anxiety if we don't do. Even stuff like compulsive cleaning, and stuff to do with cleanliness. You know, I can relate to all of those really. I have been a compulsive exerciser. I can be a complete neurotic when it comes to cleaning. I do skin pick. I tend to pick the tops of my arms and my face. I began skin picking when I was 16. I became very aware of my face. When I was 14, I had surgery, plastic surgery, on my lip. My lips are the way they are, but I did have an accident as a child, and it left quite a significant lump. It was something that few people could see, but it was something that to me was like the planet, like on my lip, and it just caused me so much distress that I didn't want to leave the house and all of this kind of thing. And I think this is what's important within body dysmorphic disorder, which is something I am diagnosed with along with my anorexia. And you know, it can be an imperfection that you just see as even worse, or it can be something that is barely there or even not there. And I guess that then becomes confused with anorexia, whereby you view yourself as fat even if you're very emaciated, so you're actually seeing something that isn't there. I'm very much like that with my arms. I tend to find that the times I pick my arms are when I'm suffering a lot of anxiety, even if I don't recognise it. Recently moved house and my skin picking has significantly worsened. I tend to use tweezers on the tops of my arms and on my face, and I can turn nothing. Literally, I cannot have a mark on my face, and I can turn my face into something which is covered in red marks because of it. It's something I find very embarrassing. I don't particularly talk about it. It's a very private habit. It's something that I've struggled with for many, many years. My advice really to people who are struggling with this type of thing is to actually, in the same way with self-injury, if you're finding that you're using matches to burn yourself or you're using razors to cut yourself, is to really try and get rid of any objects which are worsening this issue. I know that when I use tweezers and such on my skin, that it literally causes my skin to bleed, and then it scabs and I get bruises from where I've been picking at my skin. And to take that, I also think it's important to recognise if you're particularly anxious about anything, and even if you need to go to a doctor and talk to your doctor about this, don't be embarrassed, don't be ashamed about it, and just say, you know, I have been reading about this, something I'm finding very difficult. You don't even have to go on psychiatric medication to deal with anxiety. You can actually use beta blockers, which can be very, very successful in doses to kind of help that. I think that it is very difficult, like any behaviour, like anything that's compulsive, to stop, and I guess that the less you expose yourself to it, the easier it's going to get, and I guess at first it's going to be very, very difficult. And you know, my experiences, I'm very black and white, and you know, I do get to the point where I'm just like, come on Rach, you know, you need to not do this, and I literally sit with myself and like my hands on my feet, and I'm just like, no Rach, just go and do something, get out, go out. And I've started to recognise this because it is something that I don't particularly like, and to be honest with you, before I got this message I hadn't thought about it for a long time, and it's only really looking back. I used to when I was younger as well, I used to bite my hair. That was something that I did when I was very anxious. Well, I didn't even recognise I was anxious. So I guess there's a number of things there that kind of relate, and you know, I no longer suffer with my eating disorder, but I guess I do have the remnants of the anxiety left over. I guess it depends where you're skin picking as well. I know many people pick their nails, bite their nails, and my girlfriend tends to use clippers on her nails and on her skin and stuff, and I tend to, and whenever I see her sort of sat there picking, and I've taken all her little like clippers away, and I just try and hold her hand on that, and I guess that, you know, it's kind of trying to find things to sort of distract yourself so you don't do that, you know. And I do really believe that underlying this is anxiety issues and even body dysmorphic disorder. And even if it's self-injurious behaviour, you know, you need to get to the root of what's causing the anxiety and the stress that's causing you to do this. I also used to pull my hair out. That was particularly associated to kind of more psychotic behaviour and hallucinations and anger and kind of fear. Sorry, that was just my phone going. So I don't know whether I have, you know, amazing advice here about this. All I can say is I can relate to it, and I would try and speak to a doctor, and just don't be ashamed about it. And you know, I tend to, because I pick my arms, I mean, I'm wearing sleeves now, I tend to wear 3/4 so it covers this part of my arm, is to wear t-shirts so that my arms are on show, and then it's kind of like, if I go and pick them, it's like I have to cover them up because I'm ashamed of them. So I'm like, if I actually wear t-shirts, then I may be less likely to do it, because I actually want to be able to wear dresses and stuff and not feel really self-conscious of my arms. I'm so self-conscious of my arms anyway, and I guess that, you know, and as I'm saying, whether it's anorexia or eating disorders or bulimia and self-image problems, or it is self-esteem issues, or it's body dysmorphic disorder, I guess, you know, these are things that, you know, you need to work on and talk to and try and deal with. I hope that's helped, and if you've got any more questions, don't hesitate to ask me. Okay guys, bye.